Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, and today we're taking a look at the brand new isometric city builder, Nebuchadnezzar. Before we dive in, I'd like to mention that I did receive a review copy of the game, but I think it'll be plenty obvious that this has little impact on the review you're about to watch. As you watch, if you ever play the classic impression-style city builders like Pharaoh, Nebuchadnezzar will have a familiar air about it. From its visual style to many of its systems, we see a game that is trying to take familiar territory into unfamiliar spaces and times. Ancient Mesopotamia is fascinating for many reasons, but has Nebuchadnezzar managed to capture this, as well as the glory of the classics? Well, right off the bat, it's important to note that Nebuchadnezzar, like the old games by which it seems inspired, is a city builder puzzle game. Everything is locked on a grid, and you need to find the optimal ways to slot each of the various buildings together to maximize their efficiencies, as well as the efficiency of the land itself. Each map brings with it its own logistical challenges, stemming from its layout, fertility, and buildable area, and as the game takes you through about 13 or so missions, you'll be tasked with establishing many of the great cities of the region. In order to do so, you'll be building houses of various classes, supplying them with goods and the quality of life they need to upgrade according to said classes, and you'll be looking to establish trade routes with neighboring cities, while also trying to improve your own city's prestige as well. Scenarios and mods will add longevity to the game, and the devs have got plans to make modding pretty accessible, which is very exciting for the future of the game. In the base game, though, of the 13 odd missions, the first handful are extremely basic tutorial missions, quickly completed and used to teach new players how to go about the very basic elements of the game. But the later missions all ask you to reach tougher and tougher milestones across the aforementioned elements. To accomplish this, you'll manage road layouts for optimal delivery of goods as they're carried from point to point, you'll develop irrigation systems to make infertile land fertile, and you'll place everything from individual field tiles for your farms to the warehouses, caravans, and marketplaces that take those goods from the metaphorical farm to the metaphorical table. I say metaphorical because, of course, the goods you produce go beyond a few varieties of food and milk produced at a farm, and many involve midpoints to process. Beer, for example, doesn't just grow on trees. Barley has to be grown and harvested and then processed at a brewery to make beer, which is then distributed from a marketplace. You'll be fishing, digging out clay, producing bricks, ceramics, beer, wine, furniture, jewelry, clothes, olive oil. Honestly, it is a fantastic variety of goods. It is quite crazy to see just how many types of goods there are, and it's one of the best parts of Nebuchadnezzar, because each of these goods, they kind of get unlocked over the course of multiple missions, and so more and more complexity is added as you go on, slowly opening the world up to you so you don't get overwhelmed all at once. And for any goods that you can't produce locally for whatever reason, you'll have to open up trade routes, allowing you to import said goods or otherwise generate wealth through exports. In fact, exporting goods is the only way you can make money, so you'll have to establish trade routes to stay afloat, especially in later missions. You'll have to manage the delivery ranges, routes, and directions for these goods as well, whether they are imported from another city or produced locally, and you'll have to manage what each warehouse holds and how much. It can feel pretty nitty-gritty at first, but once you get an understanding of how goods flow, it all starts falling into place pretty easily. Once that happens, it becomes a matter of applying each learning from a previous mission and layering on a new learning from the current mission to keep moving forward. In that way, Nebuchadnezzar does a great job of keeping things interesting with each new mission, adding new things to play with, new buildings to understand, new resources to understand, and just new visuals and elements as well in general. From an audiovisual perspective, the game does an absolutely fantastic job capturing the feel of those classic games while applying a modern touch. The buildings look great, adding opulence and vibrance in the higher levels for the higher classes, and the little animations of folks working the various production lines are simple but effective. The monuments are a great sight as well, and the game actually allows you to plan custom structures within the predetermined footprint of the monument, be it a temple, a palace, or hanging gardens. You can change out sections or customize the placement of decorative elements. It's really quite fun. The user interface is suitably styled as well, and everything from the iconography to the typography feels properly thought out. It's something that many indie city building games seem to set aside as far as priorities are concerned, but UI and UX are literally how we engage with the game world, so it's nice to see some attention being paid here. Unfortunately, for all its visual accomplishments and levels of depth as far as supply chain and product variety and management is concerned, there's one glaring flaw that I'm having a very hard time looking past. There's no challenge. For some, I understand this might actually be a positive. Nebuchadnezzar provides a relatively relaxed and casual environment within which to build your cities, but for me personally, this is a bit of a no-go. The only thing you have to really be wary of is your financial situation, but as soon as you establish a trade route, you have an infinite supply of money with which to work. You would have to be actively trying to go broke if you want to go broke. There are no hazards or threats of any kind. Fires don't break out, squalor doesn't cause disease, pollution doesn't cause death, there's no crime to worry about, production efficiency isn't impacted by worker happiness since that's not ever even measured, and it's not like requests from foreign cities ever actually need to be fulfilled because it's not like they're going to do anything if you reject them. Unless you absolutely need to upgrade housing to, let's say, complete the level's objectives, you can just let your people live in slums. It's not like there's a, again, higher chance of fire or crime and lower quality housing, so why even bother? Even soil fertility, a key aspect, is rather simplified. It just takes a few clicks to establish irrigation canals and the entire challenge is gone because you can make a lot more soil fertile than you'd initially imagine. The only reason you're ever really doing anything is to check the boxes in the top right corner of the screen so you can move on to the next level. You're never really responding to any sort of evolving situation or evolving challenges or anything like that. An entire aspect of the genre, as a result, is just tossed out the window. Not just one aspect, multiple aspects. I realized pretty quickly that I could progress through the game without really paying it much attention. That aside, there are a few other issues that stand out as well, though not nearly as major per se. For one, I was personally very excited about the whole monument construction aspect of things. I thought it'd be a whole undertaking, building your custom monument, planning it out, seeing all the resources get brought in, slowly seeing it built over time, but no. You just have to ship easily made raw materials to the construction site, and then you lay it out as you wish, using the customization sort of user interface, and then it's instantly built. This was a major disappointment since I was expecting a proper undertaking, a monumental task, if you will. Half the fun of seeing the pyramids and mastabas get built in Pharaoh was seeing them get built, establishing the quarries, acquiring the raw materials, shipping them to the construction site, seeing the scaffolding get built, and anyway, none of that here. None of that. There are other smaller issues here and there, but it mostly all stems from the first point I brought up. Without real consequences for making the wrong decisions, without evolving scenarios and events, and with very easy access to money and a free workforce, nothing really matters. And the unfortunate thing is that I don't know how easily these core issues can be solved. How easy is it to patch in functionality like disease and crime and fire and other calamities? How can irrigation be made more challenging, and can it be easily patched in? I often talk about how a game can get post-launch support in order to fix some of its minor issues, because I feel like that's something we really have to think about these days when, updates are so, relatively speaking, easily delivered compared to back in the day, whatever that might mean these days. However, some of these issues might require entire overhauls. There are entire systems missing, not minor tweaks. How do you go about adding disease, crime, fire, natural disasters, actual threats from foreign entities? You can't just, tack on warfare to a game like this post-release, not immediately at least. Honestly, I really hope the developers are able to somehow integrate some of these aspects in the very near future, though. Because otherwise, Nebuchadnezzar is a rather plain game. Beautiful and enticing, but lacking any depth that makes you fall in love. I hate to say it, I really wanted to love Nebuchadnezzar. I really wanted it to be like those classics I mentioned earlier, and my comparisons, though, I just want to be clear, aren't just based off of nostalgia. Even, standing on its own without comparisons to those classics, Nebuchadnezzar really misses the mark. Instead of something that even comes close, or something that treads new ground and makes its own sort of special experience, instead of all that, we have a rather casual, worry-free interpretation of the genre instead, where the only challenging element is your own level of patience. As it stands now, I can only recommend Nebuchadnezzar to people interested in a very casual city building and management experience. And when I say casual, again, I mean worry-free and consequence-free. It makes for an excellent, easy difficulty mode for a game that has actual difficulty modes. Like I said earlier, you really have to try to fail a mission. What this means is that if you're looking for a more challenging experience, this game is just not what you're looking for. It's especially hard to recommend Nebuchadnezzar in its current state, when the 100+ hours of Pharaoh and Cleopatra are being combined in a remake that's going to be released sometime this year. I'll be keeping an eye on Nebuchadnezzar with that said. I want to see if some of these core issues do get solved, because if they do, we might have a solid game on our hands with a very fascinating setting, and I'll definitely do an updated video if the time comes. But that's a big if, unfortunately. I hope this review has shed some light on Nebuchadnezzar, and if you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns of your own, feel free to share them in the comments down below. I'll try and answer what I can, and otherwise I just enjoy seeing other people's opinions as well. If you're looking for more strategy, sim, and city building content, don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel as well for plenty of previews, reviews, let's plays, and more. And if you're looking for a solid community of like-minded gamers, check out the Discord linked in the description down below as well. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big ol' thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.